So hi everyone, this is Lynn from Holistic Health and Wellness, and welcome to another episode of the Living Life Naturally podcast. So I'm so happy that you're here with me today. As you know, I'm a life and health coach, and I love to help women who are going through that midlife stage. And at this stage of the game, very often we find that we hardly recognize ourselves. So I help you to crush through the noise and find your energy, your love for yourself, and to get your lives back on track. So in the show links, you'll find a place to get on a free call with me and chat to find some solutions. But today we are going to go a little further into this whole midlife thing. And I have a special guest, and she's going to talk about some of the solutions that she has. So my special guest is originally from Germany, so we have things in common, both being European, and she has her own podcast as well, Conversations with Klana. And I did a podcast with her a couple of weeks ago that was fun, and so we wanted to do something again for you. So Klana is known as the Magnificent Life Leader, and she's a transformational catalyst, a multidimensional healer, and a certified sexologist bodyworker. She's also the author of 3 books. So she worked in the corporate world for 30 years before she followed her curiosity to explore and discover her true purpose. So being devoted to her self-development and spiritual path, Klana has now been in the field of coaching, bodywork, and sexual healing for more than 10 years. So she's very passionate about this because of her own struggles and feeling like a misfit for many decades, not feeling sensual, sexy, or feminine. And she realized she didn't love herself. And I think that that is so spot on for so many of us in this stage of life. So Klana does work with emotionally malnourished women who need help learning to love it themselves so that they can have the intimacy and joy in their life that they desire. So I'm so thrilled to introduce you today to my friend Klana. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Elaine. Pleasure is right on my side.
And so do you still live in Germany, or do you live in the US somewhere?
No, let's say I live again in Germany for about a year. And the 9 years before, I was living in Ibiza, Spain.
Oh, love Ibiza. Yes,
Yeah.
Beautiful place. Yeah. So we're so glad to have you here. You do something a little bit different. So we're going to help women learn a little bit more today about self-love. And just tell us a little bit about your own journey that made you so passionate about what you do.
Yeah, as you already mentioned, I worked 30 years in corporate. And then I thought, how long do you want to do with that until your retirement? And I said, no, I don't think so. But I had no idea what else to do. There was only that little desire to be self-employed, but I had no clue with what. And so as life goes, the right people show up when you are ready. And I got into contact with a coach. And so I was being coached. And I found myself in a coaching class in Ibiza, where I then decided to move to. And that was a really, really huge decision because it meant to leave everything behind, what I built up in Germany, my apartment, my job, everything. And that was quite radical, I must say, because usually I was not like that. I like to say there was a life and a person before Ibiza and a person after Ibiza. It's really, people who knew me from then, it's really 180-degree difference. So at that time, I was so much into security. And therefore, I'm still wondering why I did that. I took that decision. But I did it, and I really got rid of a lot of my stuff. I packed my car, and I drove to Ibiza to start a completely new life, and it was completely into the unknown. I had no clue what's coming up.
Mm.
So, and there I did a 4-year training to become a professional coach.
Wow.
And learned by myself which direction do I want to go. So it was learning by doing, and at the same time trying to build a business.
Yeah, those are very stressful things that you were taking on. So tell me, I'm interested. So in Ibiza, were your classes in Spanish?
No.
No.
they were in English because it was an American
Okay.
and this is the reason why I'm still doing a lot of things in English, or mostly I'm working in the English language and not so much in German. If people now I'm starting a little bit to to give the German a little bit more room. But even though I'm not a native speaker and I'm not perfect, English is nearer when it comes to coaching and my sexological bodywork, because every training was in English. Yeah.
So what was it about yourself that turned you around so that you became aware that you didn't love yourself very much and you started on this journey to find this self-love? How did you find it even?
Yes, so when I proceeded in that training to become a professional coach, one of our principles is to teach people to first try their ideas in small projects. And that's what I did. So not just having an idea and going to the bank, taking the money and starting a business. And after a while you see, oh, that's totally different than I thought, or it's not my thing. Just start with little projects. And that's what I did with massage. So I learned massage and I was surprised that I loved that. I loved to touch people and I loved to be touched, and I wasn't aware of that before. And then I integrated that into my work. And I had a little bit of some kind of a massage practice in Ibiza, in that little town. And out of that, there were some requests from men. They wanted to have some different kind of massages, which I did not deliver at that time. But it gave me into a thinking process. And so I came over to that sexological bodywork. And that was the second very, very important decision that I took in my life. And by the way, because you are addressing also to midlife women, I started that whole journey with Ibiza with 50 years. So my message is also, it's never too late. I'm turning 61 this year, and I'm still in the process of wanting everything to do new and learn new things, and always make my life better, myself better, and so that I can make other people's life better.
It's always a journey, isn't it? You know,
absolutely.
People look at us as coaches and think that we have it all together, as I've said in other podcasts, and we really don't. Our whole life journey is a learning experience for us.
Absolutely. And you know, Lynn, that's really so good that it is like that, because then we know about those problems or issues that people come to us. It's not that we only give some theoretically learned things from us, because we can feel into it.
Right.
Yeah. And with that, yeah.
It is our life's experiences that give us that wisdom to help other people.
Mm-hmm. And with this sexological bodywork, it was so important to me personally, because before I started that, I was quite inhibited. I was ashamed of my body my whole life, because I'm quite tall and I'm stiff. And I never considered myself to be sexy. And I saw all those nice ladies with the curves and moving like elves or so. And I thought, okay, I'm not like that. I would have loved to be like that. So I didn't feel desired. And with this sexological bodywork, it opened up a completely new field for me, because I got rid of so much shame, also sexual shame and guilt, which society puts on us, which is not necessary, so that it freed me more and more. And I learned to love my body, and I learned more and more to love myself. And not only through the body work, but also, which came on top of my learnings after a while, spirituality, spiritual practices. So all that combined, it's not only one thing, brings me to where I am yet.
So much in the holistic field, which of course is where we work, it's really to do with every part of us. We can't fully love ourselves if we're deficient in one area. And so many of us have a very poor image of ourselves. And I think even it was, I think in Europe, a lot of that had to do with our upbringing. But, you know, as now we go see advertisements, and as you say, it's, you know, they've always got these skinny women with these perfect bodies. And so we feel like we're lacking when we don't have that. And that is one of the things I know that stops us from loving ourselves. We never feel good enough.
Yeah. And that's just not true, that you have to look like those people you see in the publicity. And you should think about that most of them are not looking like that in real life. They are manipulating the pictures all the time. They're making them better and better looking, and they take off all the wrinkles, and they make the same color. So most of that is artificial and not real.
I hadn't even thought about that before, but yeah, you know, I mean, years ago you would just see what you saw and that was it. But yes, there is a lot of manipulation. And I think for people that go on to these kind of advertisements or shows, and you know, I was reading something on one of our TV shows over here that it was in her contract that she actually had to lose so much weight. And she's a very big lady, and she was told that she got to lose at least 30 pounds for this season, and she didn't want to do it. She seemed very happy with herself, just as she was, but nevertheless, it was in her contract that they could make her lose weight. So I think that's also the case with a lot of these very skinny models. In their contracts, they are bound to keep to a certain weight level. And that's a really big thing to have to live up to.
Yeah, definitely.
And so we think about these women as being perfect looking and, you know, gosh, we wish we looked like them. But in reality, they probably hate themselves as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So many of them are suffering from anorexia. Anorexia.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And they are not at all happy. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so how do we get around that? What are some of the starting points to help us to be able to look at ourselves and feel better about ourselves?
This is, for me, it was my body. Really to feel my body and to start to love my body. And you know, there are some simple things like just hug yourself. Yeah. And or look into the mirror and smile at yourself. Just easy things like that. That's the first thing that I'm teaching people. And for a lot of them, that's already very difficult. And
yes,
it was for me the same at the beginning, to look into my eyes and smile at me That felt really, really uncomfortable at the moment, in the first moments.
Yeah,
With a little
I
bit
can
of
imagine.
practice, you're getting there. And now, when I'm passing a mirror, I'm really smiling to that woman because I love her.
Those are really simple steps, but things that people don't think about taking.
Yeah.
So you mentioned anorexia, and so I have to say, because I know from experience how people can still be unhappy. So in my quest to look like one of these skinny models so I could love myself, I was a yo-yo dieter all of my life until I became enlightened as a holistic health coach. And I got down to 98 pounds and I still was not happy with myself. And my family kept saying, oh, you look so sick, you look awful. And I kept looking at myself thinking, well, I'm still too fat and I still don't like myself. And when you're in that state of mind, it's very hard to help people love themselves. We always think that, oh, we've got too much weight, so that's why, but it really isn't. As we've discussed already, it's being anorexic is a whole different issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really not about our look, not at all. You just need to look on the streets and watch the different types of people, how the figures of them. And there are some people who look very, very happy and they exude self-confidence and everything. And they don't necessarily have that model figure. And there are others who have the model figure and there is almost nothing. So it is really not about your shape. It is about what is in you, what's in you. How do you perceive yourself? How do you love yourself?
And aside from kind of looking in the mirror and telling yourself that, how do you change the way that you think in your mind about yourself?
This is happening step by step. So rarely you can tell yourself and you believe it immediately.
Yeah.
And also in other things like eating habits, which is somehow like your thing, we are so used to go into the same trail that it goes really deep, deep, deep. This is something that happens in our brain. So we need to find another trail, another way, and deepen that so that we get into another habit. And you can translate that into every area in your life. And it's the same here. So practice. It doesn't work overnight.
No, because as you say, even looking at yourself and smiling, it might sound something simple, but I can only just picture myself in front of the mirror. And because being British, I'm a little bit more like you, very inhibited and stiff, kind of, is how I perceive myself. And so doing something like that would really be very dramatic for me.
Then I recommend you to try it.
Yes. Yeah, we often think that making changes means that you have to take giant steps. And yet really it's the small steps that get us to the point that we need to be at.
That's so true, Lynn. Yeah. Little by little, little steps bring us forward. Because if we only see the huge mountain, we will never start. But if we have little steps, then we don't get so easily frustrated.
And I think for women in midlife, everything seems to change. I think it's even more prevalent when you get to midlife that you don't like yourself or love yourself, because let's face it, our whole body changes. We may have been real nice, skinny women, and all of a sudden we've got this muffin top or belly fat or whatever. And then you get these mood swings and you don't like yourself because you go off on people. So it's really what you're saying is training yourself in some of these small ways for the changes to start occurring, right?
Yeah. And it's really, it's so much more. It's also that you do the things that you love to do, that you go more into the pleasure than into your pressure, yeah, and into your pain. So just find everything that brings you joy and laughter and that feels good. And everything what doesn't feel good, keep it up inside. And of course, there are some things you have to do, yeah, and then you try to do them as if they were fun. Or you find ways to make them more fun. For instance, if you don't like to clean and you have to do it, put on some music and move your booty a little bit.
my husband would think I'd gone nuts if I was cleaning the house and my booty was moving.
Yeah, and this is the most important thing. As long as you are content with yourself, because you don't change, it's just the outer appearance that changes a little bit. We are getting older, and it doesn't necessarily need to be more the downwards. So for me, it definitely was not. For me, that change in midlife went upwards, not downwards. Of course, sometimes I have also downs. No
Right.
doubt about that. But they go like, for me, the curve goes like this. You know, in general, it goes up. And so it's not like down and always on the same level. It's going up. So the downs are not as deep anymore as they used to be. And yeah, in general, it's an upward movement to more joy and happiness. And this is what we are here for.
Right, right. And I think as women in midlife, we look at the negative side. We're looking at how things are changing in our body. We're thinking our kids are leaving, so what do we do? But really, if you turn it around, it's just a great way to start a brand new life and have a new beginning.
Absolutely. Yep.
And to remember really a time to get back to knowing who we are and being the best version of ourselves. I think we lose ourselves as we're, maybe if you're married and you have children, we kind of lose who we are because we're so busy doing for other people. So part of what you teach is that whole self-love and self-care and making sure that you take care of you.
Yeah. So my opinion, it starts with yourself always. And it's not selfish like we were taught most of the times. Most of the girls, we are taught to help other people, to be there for everybody else and not for ourselves. But you cannot serve when your cup is empty. So first, go for yourself, and then you can help other people.
Yeah, that's so true. And yeah, that we've definitely been taught that we put ourselves last and take care of everybody else. And my way of saying it is, how can you take care of even your family if you're totally empty?
Exactly.
Because then you are the cranky mom or the cranky wife, or, you know, you're not fulfilled in any way.
Yeah. Where's that other saying that I've heard? If mommy is happy, everybody is happy.
Yeah, yeah. And that's especially true when we go through menopause, I think, and our hormones are raging and our moods are all over the place. And probably our kids, even as they're older, and our husbands tend to kind of stay out of our way, but
which is sometimes better. Very wise.
But it doesn't have to be like that. We can kind of have that shift in our mind and in our thinking that can help us to live with that joy and satisfaction.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of your where you're at now, how you said you've had a 180-degree transformation. So you are far happier now than you were maybe in your 40s.
Oh, definitely. I used to be a frustrated workhorse. Now I'm a happy woman who also feels sensual and loves herself. Yeah.
That's great. That's such a transformation. And that,
Absolutely.
I think that's something that we're all looking for, and just don't know that it's really out there for us. We've kind of lost all hope, but you're telling people that there is hope.
Exactly. And I can help them to get there. So can
So
you?
yeah, so I will definitely be putting your links in the show notes so that people know how to get hold of you and how to connect with you.
Thank you.
And I don't have the link, but maybe you could send me the link to your podcast, because I
Yeah,
think that they would find that very interesting.
it's easy. It's just conversationswithklana.com, but I will
Okay,
give it to you.
okay. So I really thank you for your insight, I just love your joy. You radiate joy. Every time I've spoken to you, I feel that from you. And I think that that's what we all want and what we all want to strive for.
Thank you, Lynn. And it's also because I love to be in front of the camera. So I'm following my joy and do what I like.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I enjoy it too, but you've got a lot more. I'm still very British in my delivery, but you've got that joy that comes across, and it's wonderful.
And you know what, Lynn? It is great like that. It is like that. Because if everybody was the same, it would be completely boring for the people.
This is true.
So we are each as we are supposed to be.
Yes, that's for sure. So thank you. I really appreciate you coming on here, sharing a little of your story and your life. It's not, I think people don't always realize how hard it can be sometimes to open up about things that we've experienced. And I really appreciate you sharing with our listeners today, and I hope to have you back again soon. I enjoyed our conversation when we were on the podcast together for your podcast. So I hope that everybody enjoys this podcast and finds some helpful hints there. So thank you very much, Klana. Do you have any parting words of wisdom?
Thank you, Lynn, for having me. It was really my pleasure. And ladies and also gentlemen, look out for what you really want and decide what lights you up. There you go. What doesn't light you up, there you leave.
So true. And so many of us hang on to those things that we really should have put behind us a long time ago. So thank you for listening today, everybody. Thank you for joining Klana. Thank you for being with us, Klana. And we will see you next time on the Living Life Naturally podcast.